So I did really want to do some kind of slide presentation thing because I just think they're kind of boring.
Yeah.
I know they're what is the future of commercial real estate and technology that enables it? Well, it's data, obviously, I would say. Can they hear me when I'm answering? All right. They should be. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You're good. Yeah, they're good. They can hear. So what is the future of commercial real estate and technology and the technology that enables it? It's data. And it's very much just like what we have in the financial markets. And I know that we're going down that path because I'm trying to help go down that path. I would say you got to look at it from a transactional standpoint to begin with. Appraisals, environmental, underwriting, finance, and all those parts and pieces. I think we're going to really progressively shrink that workflow and that time quantumly in a good way, because I think the data sets will be helping these people do that from a transactional standpoint. So I think that's at the very least the very first part of it. The other part of it is on the other side of the transaction, where you have all the buildings themselves, how they function, what they do, how, when I said what they function, you've got all these other outside data sources starting to be a part of the building now, which I think is good. So let's say you've got building management systems, energy management systems, which I think are very underrated as far as a quality data set. So let's say you have 3 buildings, A, B, and C, and 2 of them have really quality EMS systems, and you understand how that building is functioning, how the real costs and the maintenance and everything else. Does that make that building more valuable than the one that you have no idea? Of course it does. Okay. But we have so many unique buildings. So I think that's part of where it's going to be. The data will help enable and help the decision-making process very much so. Okay. How's that for an answer? That was pretty good. The other thing, let me get into this. The other thing that I think about is data transparency, where obviously people think that they have a certain data set that's only proprietary to them. I'm not sure that that's going to be the way that's going to happen in the future, because everybody can find that same type of data. I think it's how each individual person, depending on if they're a broker or if they're building maintenance or if they're an asset manager, decides to use those data sets. Ultimately, they're going to be the ones making those decisions. Until we get to the automated valuation model, which they're doing in residential right now. I think we'll get there soon enough. But if I'm looking at a portfolio, let's say in the middle of America with 5 separate buildings, I'm going to look at that uniquely compared to someone else who's going to look at it the same way. They may have 14 other different data sets that to them are the most important thing. That other person will say, look, those things aren't that important to me. This is more important to me. The finance, the debt, all those different parts and pieces. So to me, the transparency part will just be out there. And again, you can decide how you're going to use it or not use it. The old way of siloing data and those types of things, I don't get it. And I've been talking about this for what, 4, 5, or 6 years at the very least. Wow, dude, I need a haircut. So what happens when all of these major building owners and managers and asset managers start to do this? What happens then? What happens to the rest of the entire marketplace? They're going to have to kind of develop into that. And I think that's a very good thing. I think it's a very positive thing. I think it creates more value for the marketplace than we even have now. You know, what if what we're doing now is really stagnating the market? What if we change to this and it makes it 10 times better and 15 times more efficient? You know, that's how to look at it. Don't look at it as like, oh, if I give away my data, I'm going to die and never make a penny again. Yeah, maybe so, but that's a pretty short-sighted way of looking at it. So how's that for rambling on? Okay, here we go. Here's another one. Nice. So each stakeholder creates a system for their requirement or need. How do we bring these? Oh, that's a really good question. So each stakeholder creates a system for their requirement or need. How do we bring those stakeholders together? Wow. That's a really good question. I would say that not just falling back on data every time, but some of these assets are going to be, if you look at when we're talking about just the assets itself, there's going to be data from those assets, and I'm in New York, from 30 years ago. Okay, how relevant is that data today? So I think the sharing of some of that basic information is a normal way to do it. From a broker standpoint, that's just brokers deciding they're going to do it. I think they collaborate on a smaller scale in all their markets anyway. You know, you call up your 5 people, you're talking about this, and this. So that's you're competing on the same level no matter what. So how do you not help each other, again, create the market, create more value in the marketplace, and create better deals? That's how I think it works. You decide, look, we're going to help each other. We're not going to hurt each other. We're going to help each other. I think somebody from Cushman Wake said it was a cooperation, some kind of weird word like that. So I think that's works. All right, the next one. Do you think that software is going to eat the real estate industry like it has been doing elsewhere? I've been surprised on reading up how much big tech companies are experimenting in real estate. Do you see these companies making bigger inroads into real estate in 2019? That's a really good question. Is software going to eat real estate? Yes, absolutely. That's not a bad thing. And as I've been saying, are there potentially companies out there, tech-oriented companies, that are better at real estate than real estate companies are? Yes, they are. Right now, we're at a stage where some of the companies that are coming out, they're valuing themselves as tech-oriented companies because they get higher valuations. I think if you look at the real estate companies, they have high valuations because they have, 1,000 buildings in their portfolio. Therefore, there's a lot of value there. And if you look at the one I can obviously bring up is, let's say, Google in Toronto, where they're trying to build an entire part of the city there. Amazon, they're eating up industrial, making industrial now worth more than office, Class A office space, which is amazing to me. So I think tech companies can be better at real estate. I think, again, going back to the data a little bit, all those certain data sets that they're naturally, through algorithms and all those kinds of things, they're making decisions based off of that. That's just normal to them. That's not a location real estate decision. That's a data. I'm going to make this decision based off the data decision. Do they make bigger inroads in 2019? I think they can make bigger inroads all the way out, for a long time. And one of the most underrated sectors of commercial real estate that I see getting more quality companies helping and more money putting in and companies being bought is construction. Way underrated, really a high value thing for a company to get involved and help that process because it's so wasteful and the systems are so antiquated. And that sector is supposed to grow all the way until at least 2030. We still need houses, we still need buildings, we still need more of that. So I think if you see a tech company that's deciding they're going to get into that segment a little bit, that could be really interesting. And, you can throw a lot of money at it, but again, there's a high value there. Here's another one. What is the difference between Proptech startups in America and Europe? Who do you think will win? Well, America's going to win because we're America. No, I'm just kidding. The difference between what I've seen the Proptech startups in America and Europe. In Europe, they're very enterprise oriented to begin with. They start out figuring out how to go get customers and get paid right out of the box, which is brilliant. That's the way it should be, right? In America, we can go raise $50 million to figure something out. And it takes 5 years and $70 million to figure something out. Because we had a lot of money. And I'm not sure that solved any real problem. The thing with the European thing, the marketplace, how you have to raise money keeps the valuations down a little bit, which maybe there's some bargains to be had in Europe. So I think that's the biggest thing that I see. I think America's really good at raising money, talking trash, and trying to figure some things out. A lot of failures. We fail fast that way. Europeans are much better at starting up the companies, finding customers, generating revenue and building it over a partnership, which I think is something that America lacks a lot, very much so. That's what I've seen so far. That, and they have a lot better after parties. That's what I've also figured out than the ones I've seen. Okay. Was it 9:49? Okay. Oh, here we go. What can we do in Europe to break down the barriers between the countries so startups can scale faster in Europe? Wow, that's a really good question. There's some really good questions. What can you do in Europe to break down the barriers between the countries? Part of the issue with the companies in America is the market's so humongous that a lot of the people that are investing in them don't want them to go outside of the United States to a certain extent because there's a humongous marketplace here. God, I don't know if I can even. So they look at Europe as another marketplace, okay? We've done X, we're in LA, we're in Chicago, we're in Atlanta, we're in X, okay? So to them, it's the globe. The reason that the ones in America do that is because some of the companies that they're dealing with now have buildings and assets all over the world. I think that the Europeans need to look at that the same way. So you have assets in, you know, in Finland or in Vienna or wherever. They also have assets in Brazil. They also have assets in the Americas. So I think that the scale part of it is the customers, actually. The customers drove the American companies that I've seen to scale out a little bit faster. Also, we had a bunch of money. So that helped that in a certain sense. And I think some of them have scaled back. So that's kind of what I think about that. God, these are really good questions. Next one. What do you think is the most crucial data that will help CRE teams remain or become important in the future? Wow. Property data. Lease data is gold, okay? Lease data. Lease data is the data that you can extract from a lease that says this company A is leasing this space out for 5 years at X amount of dollars a foot, period. And they're going to do, you know, whatever the build out was or whatever, you know, when they're going to move, and that defines velocity in the market. So that is kind of what I'm saying. What is the data that creates market velocity? That's why brokers, I think, are still very important. They're the ones creating market velocity with sales, transactions, trades, whatever term you want to use there. So that, to me, it'll never go away. And from a commercial real estate standpoint, and I've talked to some of the big companies, why would you kill the pipeline that creates all the money that's made? So from a broker standpoint, they're out doing deals and creating things, and they're getting assets and they're changing hands. You still have to manage and take care of those assets. There's a lot of money to be made there. So I think that's kind of where that goes. All right, next one. Where's the line in privacy? How far we go and how far is too far? Oh, privacy. So what is proprietary? What is private? What should be private? The building owner, you know who he is. You know who they are, excuse me. You know where the building is, what the building is, how the building is. What private data is there that we shouldn't talk about from a building standpoint? I can't imagine that. Is there tenant information that should be proprietary? They have non-disclosures in some states. Why? Because that protects a certain part and piece of that. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all. How far can we go? And how far is too far? I think Facebook's went way too far. I can't even stand that. But I think I read something where there are 30,000 paid journalists in the United States, and Facebook is hiring 20,000 people just to pay attention to the stuff that's put on there, and from a journalistic standpoint. So how much is too much? They haven't figured it out yet. All right, the next one. What is your opinion concerning the emergence of blockchain technology in the real estate industry? Okay. First of all, blockchain, you know, again, it's just a part and piece of the transactional stuff. It's a database that can have a certain data set, and everyone brings up title, and I get bored with it. But yes, you go find out that information. You source information, you source information, you source information. If that information is already there and secured and agreed upon, that saves time and effort. So it shrinks that. Right now, I only see blockchain in the transactional part. I know there are companies out there right now trying to tokenize or create shares of value in a specific structure. Does blockchain make that better? That's just like a TIF for selling shares in a REIT. So if you think that's more secure, that's fine. In other countries that don't have that, though, where they don't have the certain compliances and rules around that, I think that could be a huge leap for them if that's what they want to use. That way nobody can take that stuff away. So I think we have a long way to go. Some of these companies are getting hammered now because the market's in total trash. Who's really billing out the quality stuff? Who's billing the stuff that someone like Brookfield or Blackstone or Hines is going to go, look, that's what we want to use. We need that. When that shows up, then that's something, because those companies have enough money to do whatever they want. All right, next one. And if you look towards corporate real estate, do you think real occupancy data will become common and good? Yes, I hope so. Again, I think there's a lot of value there, very much a lot of value in that data. Does it make things better? In the United States, I think they've been passing laws where you have to put that in as part of your disclosure and your taxes, because before people would use that lease value and just write it off and you would never know exactly what it was. So do I think it's for the common good? Very much so, very much so. What is your view on smart buildings? What user data do you see as the most valuable that should be collected by employers or landlords? And have someone ahead of the competition in this space? Measurable, look at Measurable, they're ahead. They're out of San Diego. The smart building stuff, again, how does that not create more value for that specific structure compared to A, B, and C sitting right next to it? The valuable data should be collected by employers and landlords. I mean, I was just in a building here in New York on 2299 Park or whatever. They got sensors everywhere, everywhere. So they're tracking everything. If you sign up for that, you sign up for that. You know, that's kind of what it is. Here's another one. There's a $14 billion monster US company dominating data provision in the US. Do you see that changing? And do you see them falling from their perch? Fuck yes. Anytime. Let's go. All you have to do is say no. Just say no. You know, trade the data with your other stuff. It again, that is not helping the marketplace. At the same time, if you're deciding to give X company money, fine. You know, that market's there for that, right? But you're allowing that to happen. Will it change? Can it change? Absolutely. And that all has to start with brokers deciding they're going to change it and the companies that they're working with. It's that simple. All right, the next one. Who owns the data? Google, Amazon, or new Proptech startups from America? I think we also need some big data companies in Europe or other continents to keep the data on our own continent. Data is power, but America first is not always good for the rest of the world. I agree. How do you think of this? Who owns the data? That's a really good question. So a building owner owns the building. Should they not own that entire data set? A broker then takes that data, puts it out in the marketplace to help trade that asset. You then take that third party, and then they take that data and say they own it, and then you turn around and sue you for it. Don't get me started on that. But it's kind of degrees of separation from. The farther it gets away from the original source, the less value that it has. Google can have that data. Are they using it? Amazon can have that data. Are they using it? The startups, all they're doing is aggregating those data sets, period. That's all they're doing. So again, the closer you are to the original data set, the better. And this is good for the, you know, again, I think the boundaries beyond borders or whatever are going to mean nothing here pretty soon. What's the next one? Oh, this is a good one. WeWork are clearly a great operator and leveraging a lot of data well into their business model. Do you think this model is going to be sustainable in a downturn? The fundamentals of taking long leases on buildings and leasing out short. Ooh, that's a really good question. What you have to understand about WeWork, and I've talked to WeWork, I've talked to Convene and some others, it's the process, okay? They're really good at the entire process. So let's say it's going to take You're going to take 5,000 or 10,000 square feet. It's going to take you a year and a half or two just to get in that space. What WeWork has done is shrink that process and time down, right, to almost nothingness. So are they doing it with data? Yes, they are. Okay, they understand the marketplace. From a standpoint of the sustainable and the downturn, God, that's a really good question. You know, that's, I don't know. I mean, just like anybody else, you know, if you have the space and you can therefore have that marketplace and all those potential users. And I remember the last downturn because you know, a lot of people haven't been around for the downturn. I remember a company that I know of that was doing industrial. They started going to their tenants and saying, what can we do to keep you here? You know, don't even think about going away. We want to keep you here. We'll even reduce your rent. So that's pretty powerful in a down market when you already have a lot of those leases together. Is it going to hurt them? Sure it is. But what if they still just end up being one of the biggest asset owners and managers in the world? How bad could that be, right? How big are they now compared to CBRE or other companies? So even in a downturn, they might still do really well because people still got to work. Where can we get in touch with you and follow your work? Well, Duke Long at dukelong.com. I'm not hiding. And my email is dukelong@dukelong.com. So that's pretty basic. Like I said, I'm not hiding anywhere. I've been writing for what, a decade now? I've been kind of mellowing out a little bit lately, but it's not as much. What's the other one? Let me see. We had the other one. Yeah. The other thing, okay, here's another question about the value chain of the transaction. You got to think about the transaction from discovery. Discovery means here's a potential person that wants to buy or sell this asset. All the way till everything that goes through that transaction till the actual close and exchange of the dollars. How much value is there in that transaction? Okay. You can start breaking it down piece by piece by piece. And the residential people have done a really good job of this. The biggest part of that transaction is the finance and the underwriting. That's where all the money is. Okay. All the money is. So you look at a company like Open Door here in the United States, where they're out buying houses and everybody thinks they're doing whatever in the market. If the market's this big, they're only going to be that, right? They're just going to be that. So if they're just that, they're still going to be a multi-billion-dollar company, right? What they figured out is from the minute someone decides to buy or sell all the way to the end, they're owning it all. They're owning it all. And that is brilliant. It's totally brilliant. So who's going to own that entire value chain, or how much of that value chain can you own? There's a lot of money that can be saved or earned or put forth into the marketplace just because of that. All right. Oh, here we go. Which startup do we all need to follow in 2019? Oh, I'm not giving away my secrets here. I'm not giving away my secrets. No. Cherry, C-H-E-R-R-E. I love those guys. I love Cherry. They're here in New York. Another one, buyproxy.com. And Jan, if you're not listening, I'm going to kick your ass. They all came out of 10X, and they're going to do the entire transaction in the middle market. I love District. She's great. They're kicking ass. Maybe Under the Radar. That I think I'm going to write that pretty soon. I would say the other space to look at a lot is the co-working or the managing of certain type of co-working environments. I think that'll be consolidated. So you've got companies like Industrious and Convene. Those are the ones I would pay attention to. Oh, I'm just rolling here, man. You know, how long can we go? Forever. Oh, yeah. Let's see, any more? Oh.
Are there more questions, Duke? Do you have some more questions, or is it
is that it?
Running empty? I don't know. If people have questions, they can
I got chat. Let me look at the chat. Are people chatting? No. Here's one. WeWork is meeting the needs of a new way of working. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a lot of WeWorks here in New York all the time. There's a lot of other spaces now that are out there competing. There's a big building right here on, like right next to Grand Central, like on Vanderbilt and like 42nd. They're turning it basically into almost the entire building into a tech hub. So they're pulling in corporates, they're pulling in space, they're going undervalued market. So they're trying to create that environment and just an entire building and use the building that way. I think WeWork gets slammed for having just a bunch of kids in there, and they're not. There's a lot of different spaces that they have. And the one I was in Paris was unbelievable. So it's not just a bunch of kids. It's, adults that are out doing that. I think some of the other companies out there have decided to kind of up market a little bit. I was just in the convene at Rockefeller Center, and it was gorgeous. I mean, it was just tricked out, and it was quiet and mellow, and I kind of like that. So maybe that's a different environment. You're going to pay for that. Does that mean you're not going to get that whole hive of the WeWork thing? I mean, they created basically a social network out of people, which is brilliant, in my opinion. So they're meeting the needs, sure. I'm looking at that.
I think we get one more question in the Q&A.
Oh, how about co-living? Co-living, yay or nay?
Yeah.
Anyone seen dominating the market? There's a couple more. Co-living, no, not for me personally. I don't want to live in a dorm for adults. I understand that. And people that come to New York, it would be kind of convenient in that way. I just don't, I don't know. The cities the way they are, maybe it's convenient. And there's a couple of companies here really doing it well in Brooklyn. Again, I don't think it's for everybody, but certainly there's a certain segment of the market that fits quite well, especially the nomadic part of, and a lot of people that are just in and out. And the ones that are doing it in Brooklyn are really, really tricked out and pretty nice. But again, you're still going to pay. So you're paying the same price for a bed and a common area as you are for your own apartment, which is kind of brilliant in a certain sense. So that one I see. And here's another one. Well, a lot of the malls just end up being demolished, or is there any potential to save them, bricks and mortar retailers leveraging technology better? I think it's just, and I'm from the Midwest, and there's a lot of big malls everywhere. They just need to repurpose them. There are still hubs of the community, still, especially in the Midwest. People come from all around still just to go to those malls, just to socialize and congregate. I think they can make them into more and better uses in that way. You don't have to have a Sears everywhere. You can buy that stuff online. So I see them repurposing that in a certain way. And that's not entirely a bad thing. That's usually in some of these towns, that's the biggest structure around. So it's just redoing it. I mean, everybody's biased on the coast, but the stuff that I've seen in Middle America, it's still the hub of what they do. I think that's it.
Cool. Well, I think
I could go for days, man.
Yeah. Well, what is the next event where we can see you live? Well, not like
live. I'm going to be in Chicago at a big marketplace, state of the market thing in Chicago on December the 8th. I'm going to MIPIM and Con, depending on what you call that.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
Go to Hong Kong in March. That's the ones that I know of right now. So I'm definitely coming back over to Con.
Cool. Well, we'll see you for sure over there. Well, thanks a lot, Duke, for this wonderful Q&A session during the very first Global Proptech Online. I hope we're going to
appreciate it. I really thank you for putting this together, man. It was really cool, and a lot of great people on there, and I think it was a great idea.
Thank you very much. We're working on it to make it bigger and bigger. So thank everybody for watching and asking your questions to Duke, and hope to see you all soon.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
See you later.